developing growing questions tonight surrounding the death of a lifestyle influencer from New Jersey found dead while on vacation in Zanzibar just days after her engagement.
Influencer Ashley Janae Robinson was on a vacation in Zanzibar. That's off the coast of Tanzania. She had just celebrated her birthday. Social media posts show she got engaged on this trip. But this morning, her death is under investigation and her family wants answers.
I did receive a phone call from Joe. He told me that Ashley did something to herself and that she was being taken to the hospital, and that he told me that she was stable.
After receiving treatment at 2 hospitals, Robinson was declared deceased.
They always say travel while you still can. See the world. Make memories. And honestly, good advice. Genuinely great advice. Just maybe. And I really, truly cannot stress this enough. Do a full audit of who you're packing that carry-on with before you leave the house. Because for 3 women this year, the most dangerous thing on the entire trip wasn't the destination. It wasn't the food. It wasn't the roads. It wasn't the water. It was the company. Ashley Janae posted her last Instagram caption from Tanzania. Ring on her finger, rose petals on the ground, giraffes in the background, she wrote. And these were her exact words. Chapter 31, and I'm exactly where I need to be. 3 days later, she was dead. And the man who got down on one knee and proposed to her on that same trip was the one standing in front of police, telling them she did it to herself. Now, I want you to really sit with that for a second, because we are not just talking about Ashley today. We are talking about 3 women, 3 Black American women, who left home in 2026 and never came back the same way they left. One went to Africa for her birthday. One went to the Caribbean for her sister's birthday. One was just sitting in her own car, in her own city, minding her own business. And every single one of them, gone. Red flags don't always show up waving. Sometimes they show up with a plane ticket. Sometimes they show up in a nightclub at 1 in the morning with a smile and an offer for a ride. Sometimes they've been sitting in your comments for 5 months straight, and you scrolled right past them. This is their story, and by the end of it, you'll be checking your own situation. Now let's talk about Ashley Janae. Real name, Ashley Robinson, 31 years old, Miami girl, and she had built something on social media that a lot of women dream about. Over 100,000 followers on Instagram. A full aesthetic, travel, luxury, soft living. The kind of content that makes women in their 30s bookmark a page and take notes. She called herself a soft life divester. If you're not familiar with the term, it basically means she had made a deliberate decision to stop running herself into the ground, chasing a life that wasn't showing up for her. She wanted ease. She wanted peace. She wanted to be chosen well. And she documented all of it, openly, with her whole chest. In April 2026, she brought her audience along on what looked like the most beautiful chapter of her life. A birthday trip to Tanzania. Zanzibar, to be specific. Safari. Luxury resort. The whole soft life fantasy on full display. The man she brought with her was Joe McCann. 48 years old. Founder and CEO of Asymmetric Financial. A crypto hedge fund backed by major Silicon Valley names. By every public measure, an established, serious man. 17 years older than Ashley. And to the outside world, to her followers, to the women in the comments, it looked like the universe had finally delivered. The older, established man. The luxury trips. The woman who had publicly committed to choosing herself, now being chosen back. The comments were full of goals. The saves were stacking up. People were inspired. But here is the thing about social media. And this story is going to teach all of us something by the end. The grid only shows you what someone decides to post. And what Ashley's grid was not showing her 100,000 followers was anything close to the full picture. Let's go back to those comments. Because this is the part of the story that has the internet absolutely losing it. And rightfully so. Months before Tanzania. Months before the ring, before the safari proposal, before Ashley ever got on that plane. Somebody left a comment on one of her Instagram posts. A regular follower. Not a verified account. Not a celebrity. Just a person who had been watching long enough to see something. And they typed it out, plain as day. He is going to harm you. Get out. Now, we have all seen comments like that on someone's page, right? The internet is full of opinions. Everyone's a life coach when it's someone else's relationship. So if Ashley saw it, and she most likely did, she probably scrolled past it, maybe rolled her eyes, and posted another photo. 5 months later, that comment went viral. Because 5 months later, Ashley Janae was dead. And it wasn't just one person. Once the internet started digging, and they dug. People found multiple old comments on Ashley's posts warning her about Joe. Multiple people, over months, saying some version of the same thing. There were even people pointing to the way Joe looked at Ashley in her own photos. One of her date night carousels. A nice dinner, the two of them dressed up. And fans noticed how Joe was looking at her in the third slide. Not warmly. Not proudly. Cold. Detached. He hated her. Look at how he's looking at her. That comment alone got thousands of likes. A photo doesn't prove anything, but 100,000 people picking up on the same energy. Across multiple posts, over months. That is not nothing. And that is the part that is hard to sit with. Because Ashley kept posting, kept sharing, kept bringing her audience into the story. And then came April 3rd, 2026. Joe proposes during the safari. Ashley posts the video, and it does numbers immediately. Congratulations flooding the comments. Women who had followed her journey cheering for her. It looked like the payoff of everything she had been building toward. April 5th, her actual birthday. She posts what becomes her final Instagram update. Rose petals on the floor spelling out HBD Ashley. Her feeding a giraffe. The ring catching the light. And that caption. Chapter 31 and I'm exactly where I need to be. She had no idea that caption was going to mean something very different to a million strangers 2 weeks later. Now here is where the story shifts. Stay with me on this timeline, because the details matter. According to Tanzanian police, confirmed in an official news conference, while Ashley was posting birthday photos and her followers were cheering her on, things at the Zanzibar resort were a very different vibe. The two of them were fighting. Not a small disagreement. A fight bad enough that other guests at this $950 a night resort noticed and alerted the staff. Hotel staff stepped in. They physically separated Joe and Ashley. Moved Joe to a completely different villa, about an 8 to 10 minute walk away. The staff called it a romantic conflict, which is a very polite way of saying things had escalated past a point where the two of them could be in the same building. After the separation, a hotel attendant went to check on Ashley. She was in her room. She asked for a phone charger. The attendant went to get it. Ashley told them, "Come back in 15 minutes. 15 minutes. The attendant came back. The room was locked. The lights were off. Using a spare key, the attendant opened the door. What they found inside that room turned what Tanzanian authorities were trying to quietly close into an international case that has now reached the US State Department, Cardi B's Twitter timeline, and millions of people's For You pages. Ashley was found hanging inside the room, but she was still alive, still breathing. She was rushed to a local hospital, then transferred to a second facility. For a brief window, it seemed like she might survive. She died on April 10th, 2026. Now, let me tell you what happened after Ashley was found, because this is where things get difficult. After the hotel sounded the alarm, after the ambulance came, after she was being taken to a hospital. Joe McCann did not call her family. Not right away. Not within the hour. Not within a few hours. He called them 11 hours later. Her mother, Yolanda Endres, was back home in the States, living her normal life, having no idea that her daughter was in a hospital on the other side of the world. No call. No text. Nothing from the man who proposed to her daughter 4 days earlier. And when Joe finally did reach out, he told Yolanda that Ashley had done something to herself, that she was stable. He did not tell her the full picture. Yolanda Endres found out that her daughter had died, not from Joe McCann, from the hotel, the man who had just proposed to her child on a safari. The only other person in that story could not pick up a phone and tell a mother that her daughter was gone. The family had to hear it from hotel staff, and then Ashley's family launched a GoFundMe, asking the public, followers, strangers, anyone willing to chip in, for $50,000 to cover funeral expenses and the costs of an overseas investigation. While the man who was engaged to their daughter has not contributed publicly, has not issued a single statement, and has not spoken to the family since that one phone call. The internet saw that GoFundMe and, as they say, chose violence. The comments wrote themselves. But here is where we slow down. Because as much as the internet is ready to hand down a verdict, there is still an active investigation happening. And the facts, on their own, already raise enough questions without anyone needing to add anything. So let's talk about what the facts actually are. The official story coming out of Tanzania is this: Ashley Janae died by suicide, hanging. The Zanzibar police held a press conference, confirmed the preliminary finding, and stated, on record, that at that stage, there was no indication of foul play. Joe McCann was being questioned as a witness. His passport was taken. But he was not, as far as official statements were concerned, a suspect. That is the official narrative. Now let me tell you what the people who actually knew Ashley had to say about that. Her friend Savannah Britt posted publicly, and her words spread everywhere within hours. We need justice for my friend Ashley Janae, who was found dead in her hotel in Tanzania, and her fiancé Joe McCann claims she hung herself. Anyone who knows Ash knows she would never commit suicide. We need answers now. That single post from one friend who refused to be quiet became the spark, because this was a woman who had just gotten engaged 4 days before she died, who posted about being exactly where she needed to be, whose whole brand was choosing herself and winning. Her father, Harry Robinson, put it plainly. Nothing about it makes sense. It just doesn't add up. Now let's talk about Joe McCann, because I told you to hold on to who this man is, and now it matters. 48 years old, founder of Asymmetric Financial, a crypto-focused hedge fund, a recognizable name in institutional investment circles, backed by notable figures in Silicon Valley. By most public accounts, a man who had built a serious career and a serious profile. He and Ashley had been together for about 1.5 years. And from what her followers could see, the relationship had not been heavily documented until the Tanzania trip. Before that, he was mostly in the background of her content. What the investigation now needs to answer is simple. What actually happened in that villa between the time the hotel staff separated them and the time Ashley was found? That is the window that matters. And right now, the only person who was there for that window is Joe McCann, who has not said a single word publicly since. That is not an accusation. That is just a fact that is very hard to ignore. Tanzanian police confirmed that McCann's passport had been confiscated. He was being held and questioned. Not arrested, not charged, but not free to leave the country either. The North Unguja police commander confirmed the couple had a dispute that night, that Ashley was found alive, transported to hospital, and died the following day. All of that, officially on record. What was not officially verified, but circulating loudly across Reddit, Lipstick Alley, Threads, and X were claims that a second independent autopsy found signs of strangulation, that there was a mark around Ashley's neck, that the hospital's own report listed the cause of death as cerebral hypoxia by strangulation and suffocation. The family has been careful. Their statement said clearly, treat any information not released directly by us as unverified while the investigation is ongoing. That is a family protecting the integrity of what they are building legally, while the internet does what the internet does. But here is what no one is disputing. The man who was the last person near Ashley waited 11 hours to call her mother, has issued no public statement, is being questioned in a foreign country, with his passport on someone else's desk. Make of that what you will. When Cardi B posted those words, the case exploded on a whole new level. Suddenly, women who had never heard of Ashley Janae were on her page, reading the timeline, finding the warning comments, watching the proposal video, and feeling something shift in their chest. The internet became its own investigation unit, pulling receipts, rebuilding the timeline, screenshotting everything, all of it pointing back to the same question. How does a woman who just got engaged, who just celebrated her birthday in one of the most beautiful places on earth, how does she end up dead 3 days later, and the only person with answers is not talking? As of the time this video was made, no charges have been filed. The investigation is active. Autopsy results have not been publicly released. McCann remains in Tanzania, passport held, as the legal process moves at its own pace. This case has now reached the US State Department. Ashley's family traveled to the embassy in Washington. They are working with officials on both sides. They are not sitting quietly. And neither is the internet. The official verdict is suicide. The family's verdict is not a chance. And for everyone who followed Ashley Janae's soft life journey, the only acceptable outcome is a full, transparent investigation, with answers that actually make sense. Now, I told you there were 3 women. As devastating as Ashley's story is, we cannot leave the other 2 behind, because their stories carry the same weight. And together, all 3 of these cases are saying something that we need to hear. Let me introduce you to Qualicia Barnes. Most of you probably know her as Siditi. Qualicia Barnes was 36 years old, born and raised in Detroit, living in Atlanta for nearly a decade, building multiple lives at the same time, the way women do when they refuse to be one thing. She was a rapper. She went by Siditi. She had a real following in the Detroit and Atlanta hip-hop scene, collaborating with Icewear Vethso and Babyface Ray. She was not a mainstream name yet, but she was getting there. She also ran So Siditi Boutique, her own online business, her own brand, her own CEO title, built from scratch. And on top of the music, on top of the boutique, she was in nursing school, making the dean's list. 2 semesters away from her degree, her mother told 11 Alive,
she was so proud of herself, and we were so proud of her.
Qualicia Barnes was also 14 weeks pregnant. Music, business, education, a baby on the way. This was a woman in motion, who had made something out of herself in a city that does not hand anything to anyone. Officers responded to Southeast Atlanta, Springside Place. They found a white Range Rover stopped in the middle of the road. Inside was Qualicia Barnes, shot 4 times in the face, fired on from outside the car. Someone had pulled up to that vehicle and fired directly into it. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Her baby with her. No warning, no argument, no chance to run. Someone had a plan for Qualicia Barnes that she never saw coming. Investigators reviewed surveillance footage, spoke with people at the scene. No clear picture. No suspect arrested. No motive officially announced. Case still open. Her mother, Francine Lopez Stewart, told reporters she believed more than one person was involved. And she said something that stuck.
If you instigate something that causes a murder, I think you need to go to jail.
She is not wrong about that. Her sister remembered her the only way that matters. I know her as Qualicia.
I know her as Lily. I know her as we in the same house, in the same bed. That's what I know her as.
No charges, no arrest, no answers. A 36-year-old woman, 2 semesters from her nursing degree, 14 weeks pregnant, CEO of her own business, shot 4 times in her own car, in her own city. And the case is still open. Qualicia Barnes deserved better than that. Her baby deserved to exist. The 3rd woman, Denanisha Delancey, 29 years old. Miami, Liberty City, Florida State University alumna. All she was trying to do was celebrate her sister's birthday. Denanisha traveled to St. Martin in March 2026 with her sister Sincaria and a friend. The kind of trip that ends up all over your Instagram. Beautiful island, warm water, club nights, birthday energy. Their first night out, they went to a club called the White Rabbit. They met a man. He was from Trinidad, lived on the island. Charming. He offered to give them a ride home. And this is the moment that changes everything. The group accepted the ride. When they reached the Airbnb, Sincaria and the friend went inside. Denanisha stayed with the man. His name was Quincy Damon Sylvester. And what Denanisha did not know, what she had absolutely no way of knowing, was that Quincy Damon Sylvester was not just a friendly local with a car. He was a suspected drug lord, a Trinidadian national who ran a PVC pipe business as a front for criminal operations. And somewhere in that nightclub that same evening, men from Trinidad had been watching him, following his every move, waiting. Around 3:30 in the morning, Quincy's SUV was moving along Arlette Peters Road. It was ambushed. Gunmen opened fire. The SUV flipped. Both Quincy and Denanisha were killed at the scene. Surveillance footage from the White Rabbit confirmed what investigators already suspected. Those men had been tracking Quincy from the moment he walked through the door. Every move, all night. And when he left, they followed. Denanisha Delancey was not the target. She was never the target. She was a 29-year-old woman from Miami who got into the wrong car at the wrong time, with the wrong man. Her sister Sincaria survived because she went inside that Airbnb. The exact same night. The exact same decision point. One of them went home. One of them stayed. Only one of them made it to the next morning. Their original driver called Sincaria early that morning. He had heard something on the island. Asked if they were okay. That was how they found out. Not from police. From their driver. Denanisha came home from St. Martin in a casket. For a birthday trip. For her sister's birthday, everyone who knew her described the same woman. Full of life. Loved to travel. Loved to celebrate. Loved every moment. The kind of person who makes the people around her feel like the party started the second she walked in. One arrest has been made. The main suspect is still at large. And Denanisha Delancey's family is left asking why their daughter went on vacation and never came home. 3 women. Ashley Janae, Qualicia Barnes, Denanisha Delancey. 3 different situations. 3 different cities. 3 families sitting right now with a wound that is not going to close quickly, if it closes at all. But here is what all 3 stories have in common. And I need you to hear this not as a lecture, but as a real conversation between women who are paying attention. In every single one of these cases, there was a moment, a decision point, a warning that existed somewhere in the story. Whether it was in an Instagram comment, in a gut feeling, or in a choice to stay when the others went home. We live in a time where our whole lives are on social media, where strangers can watch our relationships unfold in real time and sense something is wrong before we can name it ourselves. And sometimes, those strangers in the comments are seeing clearer than we are, because love has a way of making the obvious invisible. None of these women deserved what happened to them. Not one of them. And none of them should be reduced to a cautionary tale while the people and the systems that failed them walk free. What they deserve is what their families are fighting for. Justice, answers, transparency, and for their names to mean something beyond a headline. So if this video did anything, if it made you look at your own situation, your own circle, your own willingness to scroll past the comments that make you uncomfortable, then Ashley, Qualicia, and Denanisha's stories did what all hard truths are supposed to do. They woke somebody up.